It's Friday night, and welcome to the Cocktail Hour with Chaos and the Kid. Greetings, Hater Nation. I am the mighty El Chaos. Joining me right here to my left, the man, the myth, the legend, all the way from Del Rio, Texas, Kid Shoryuken.
Hello, everyone. Happy Friday.
Genuine class, and happy Friday to each and every one of you. We're glad to have you with us. Welcome to the Cocktail Hour. It's a new concept here on the HBP podcast channel. We thank you for joining us, and we're just going to have a couple of drinks, and hopefully, if you got them, drink them. And we're going to have a little bit of talk, and then after we have a little bit of talk, we'll be taking your questions like we always do on these programs. So, as I said before, thank you very much for joining us. Let me have a little sip here, and we'll get underway. Kid Shoryuken making it possible for all of us with his Old English 800.
Old English brand malt liquor. It goes down smooth for good times.
That's good. It goes down smooth, just like you.
I'm going to be the new OE spokesperson.
Oh wow! Well, we could probably work on that for you. In fact, if you got nothing else to do this evening after the show, send an email to Old English and tell them that Kid Shoryuken is the guy who could really propel their brand into the 21st century. Even though we're already in the 21st century, but if I said the 22nd century, that sounds like bullshit. There's no way this guy's going to live another 100 years.
We're going to propel it further into the 21st century. I'm going to be the man that brings OE to Japan.
You're going to take OE to Japan?
You watch me.
All right, you know what, and that's a fantastic thing. Making this a worthwhile proposition for all parties involved. Kid Shoryuken, I salute you, and the entire Hater Nation, I'm pretty sure, salutes you. But, yes, good evening and welcome. We have a few things to talk about this evening before we take your questions. Always great questions coming from the Hater Nation, and we really appreciate it. First and foremost, there's something that really needs to... We're just going to jump right into this thing, because this is something that well, I'll be perfectly frank, all journalistic integrity aside, I laughed my dick off when I heard about this. For those of you folks that don't know, we've covered it here on the program a few times before. We've talked about the famous Alamogordo landfill dig that took place not too long ago, where they unearthed a number of old Atari cartridges, and lots of Atari paraphernalia was unearthed that had been buried in the ground for 30-some-odd years. And now the city of Alamogordo, completely within lockstep of what they claimed they were going to do, they claimed and planned to sell the, let's be perfectly frank, the trash that they pulled out of the ground with certificates of authenticity, and decided to sell it on eBay, which is, if you're going to sell trash, where else would you sell it but on eBay? It's really become the world's flea market, and, for better or for worse. Now, I was not genuinely opposed to the idea. It's like if people want to buy trash, that's fine. That's their business. I know, because I've seen Walmart and people buying trash all goddamn day long. So that wasn't terribly shocking to me. However, I have found out that these landfill carts, because apparently there's a perceived historical significance to trash that was excavated from the ground. I just want to make that very clear. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about trash that was pulled from the ground. People are paying big money on the eBay, on the internet auction sites, to get a hold of trash that came out of the ground. Now, Kid Shoryuken, you've been following this just as I have, and I'm sure you've been laughing along just as much. Now, do you have any impressions? Because you and I talked about this a little bit, about how this seems like an anthropology study in and of itself, that people are spending their hard-earned money on what they know for certain is trash that came out of the ground.
Yes, it's really weird to me. It seems like people feel like maybe it's their chance to own a little bit of gaming history, because there was a whole lot of I guess mythos surrounding this for a long time. People didn't even think maybe it was necessarily true that this happened. But I mean, that's a strange thing to have mythos surrounding, throwing away a bunch of shit in the desert. That's not. It's like this legendary event that took place where they threw some shit away in the desert. But I think that's really the driving force behind it. People think it has some kind of historical significance, for the past 30 years or so, hearing stories of this supposed landfill of classic Atari games. And then, they dug it up for, I believe, some documentary film or whatever. And like you said, if people want to go and buy garbage, that's really their own business. But it does seem kind of absurd, the prices that people are willing to pay for some of these ET cards, because they're numbering them like they're some kind of like limited edition, almost like they're like class rings or something like that. And the prices are absurd, especially when they know there's more. People are paying these prices now, even though it's already been stated that there's like well over 1,000 more of these games coming down the pipe. And really weird. Odd behavior to find garbage to be of historical significance, I think.
Well, it's funny the way you brought that up, because according to my best research, which I'm going to be perfectly honest with you folks, is not the strongest research. I did a few searches, looked around, and according to my best research, there are millions of these carts unaccounted for. Chances are a lot of them are still in the ground in Alamogordo. And you're right, there is a bit of a mythos that surrounds this. And I've always said that gaming is more than a hobby for a lot of people. I know that because you guys don't know this, but all the time, I jump in and I see what's going on. And people are having arguments on the 8-Bit Podcast videos from years ago, still having arguments with each other over one thing or another. So I've learned that gaming is more than a hobby. Gaming is almost a religion. And when it comes to retro gaming is definitely a religion. And this sort of thing seems to surpass the definition of a religion, more of like an underground cult. It really has all the makings of, an underground cult. People who desperately want to attribute value and historical significance to, let's face it, trash that some corporation threw into the ground out of their warehouse that was nearby or whatever. And I don't want to dismiss, the historical significance of those games, because in and of themselves, those games are important, absolutely. But when you're spending your hard-earned dollars, I guess I'm getting ahead of myself, because we talked about this. This was going on shortly before the program began, that they're spending top dollar, and when I say top dollar, I mean hundreds, if not thousands of dollars spent on trash that was known to be dug out of the ground. And now there is talk about people counterfeiting such things. And if there are people counterfeiting trash that came out of the ground, as soon as I see it, I am going to laugh my dick off. I honestly mean that. And I say that in the most genuine way I possibly can. Laugh my dick right off, because people are paying money for trash that came out of the ground when, and kid, you know all about this. You've been to the Hard Off in Japan. I've been to the book offs that we have here in the United States, and I see brand new sealed copies of 2600 games for $5 tops. Brand new stuff that no one's ever opened, but these guys are paying $1,500, $1,600, $2,000 for trash that was dug out of the ground. I find that very interesting, because it really has all the makings of, really a cult. And people think that this is going to accrue in value. It might accrue in value, because if you realize trash is zero. So if if suddenly it's worth a couple of bucks, that definitely is accruing in value, but the money you spent to get involved in it it's interesting, because there's also people that think that there might be scalpers involved. There might be the resellers are gonna put these in their stores and expect top dollar for them. That to me is absolutely fascinating, because again, there are millions of these carts that are unaccounted for, and chances are they're all in the ground. And also, there's the talk that the city of Alamogordo could potentially, again, delve into the ground in the landfill and exhume more of this to continue to sell in online auctions, which of course is only going to pollute the market and drag down the cost of the initial batches, obviously. But then you got to think about shit that has been buried, silicone boards that have been buried underground for 30 fucking years. See, that's the first F word of the night, so you notice that we're having plenty to drink and we're throwing journalistic integrity out the window. But 30 fucking years, you have any idea what happens to electronic components that have been underground for 30 years? Not to mention the shit that was dumped next to it. They're going to exhume this stuff and unleash who knows what kind of horror on the city of Alamogordo if they so choose. Now, mind you, it's not going to be like 28 days later, or it might be. We don't know. But you know, kid, you're a smart guy. Is there validity to my statement that this is almost seems like to have sort of a cult-esque ambiance to it?
Well, you know, religion is a naturally occurring phenomena. If it's not one thing, it's the other. So I don't, you know, it's the same problem I have with, you know, not just gamers, but metal fans and everything. Everybody treats their favorite toy like it's their religion. So it doesn't surprise me at all that people are behaving this way. But, you know, if they spend, you know, top dollar on these things and they feel like they didn't really get their money's worth, if history is any indicator, they can just bury the fucking thing for another 30 years and then dig it back up and it'll be double its value again. So it's weird, and you use the word exhumed, which I think is it's really an apt term here. It would be kind of funny if this is just like this sets a precedent and we can kind of, you know, continue this practice in other areas. We can just start exhuming, you know, bodies of historical figures and selling bits and pieces of that in the mail and shit, just on eBay, like some dead poet's cock or something. And
I mean, in terms of retro gaming, it's only a matter of time. I mean, it's not too long before they exhume the corpse of Ray Kassar and start selling that off. It won't be very long. It won't be very long. So I know a lot of people have really explored the topic of the Atari carts in the ground and so on and so forth, but it is really interesting. And as I've said before, and there's a lot of people, a lot of folks that watch the 8-Bit podcast. I'm slurring my speech a little bit because this is in fact real alcohol. So if anyone tells you that the cocktail hour is a work, no, this is an absolute shoot. I'll tell you right now. So if you see me, you know, kind of losing my equilibrium, that's what you came here to see. So anyway, what was I talking about? What was I talking about, kid? I'm already losing my train of thought here. This is going to be an excellent.
I seem to recall you said something along the lines of, you know, and this is what I'm talking about when I say.
And then I talked about exhuming the corpse of Ray Kassar, obviously.
And then it goes on like that for a little while. And
I know that there's lots of high school students and lots of college students that watch our program and they enjoy it, and I appreciate that. However, this is something that I really believe, and I believe this honestly in my heart. If you've ever taken any of my advice before, take this into consideration, is in that this is an anthropology study unto itself. For those of you that are in college and need to write a paper about the study of human behavior, collecting is definitely one of those avenues that you could certainly spend a great amount of time discussing. You could write an entire paper just about the Atari landfill carts, the ramifications therein, and people paying top dollar for what they know is trash that came out of the ground. There's not a whole lot more we could really say about this, but I really believe that is an anthropology study waiting to happen. Don't you feel so, kid?
Yeah. You hit the nail right on the head.
I really think so. And, you know, because people fall for all kinds of stupid things. And it's not really like the city of Alamogordo is trying to defraud anybody. It almost seems like this is just a zeitgeist that is forming around them, this belief that these are valuable when, and don't get me wrong, they are valuable. You know, E.T. is valuable as a game. You know, I understand they were also uncovering copies of Centipede and copies of Pac-Man, another piece of shit that really could have contributed to the crash of 83, 84. You know, and all that. And I appreciate that for what it is, but the fact remains, you know, when if you're talking about value, typically people talk about rarity or demand, and I don't see the demand there. And secondarily, once again, I've said this through probably the entire existence of the 8-Bit podcast, because this does seem to come up every so often, what happened to all those games. And there are millions of these things unaccounted for, which means as soon as somebody finds these things, all that money that you spent is down the fucking drain. Not that money has any value inherently of itself, but realize how hard you had to work to spend $1,500 on what is intrinsically trash.
I can see this from the city's point of view, though. I mean, your city, you love it. You have the chance to make a little money off some suckers, Why not? I mean, they're giving it to you willingly. They're not scamming anyone. They're not, trumping it up. They're telling you exactly what it is and where it came from. So more power to the city of Alamogordo. Way to go.
No, absolutely, and you're right. There's no scam involved. But funny that you brought up the scam because people have been scamming the Walmart. Did you hear about this?
Oh,
did you hear about people scamming the Walmart? Apparently, there's a bunch of clever people, and I first and foremost, I want to talk about this.
And quick reaction time, in addition to being clever, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. We're good at segues right here on the 8-Bit Podcast. You know it, especially right here on the cocktail hour, because when I got my food, when I have my fuel, you never know what is possible.
Like fucking Speed Racer saw that ad and was like, fuck, I got to get down to Walmart.
Absolutely. And what I found funny was, first and foremost, if you don't know, you probably heard a number of people on the YouTube, on the internet, talk about this thing. But if you don't know, what's essentially happened is, if you don't know this, Walmart, the fine folks at Walmart Incorporated, with all of their hubris, speaking of Atari, and now we're moving on to the Walmart hubris. There was enough hubris earlier in the 80s, but here we are today. Walmart has, and a couple of other retailers, have always had and I don't want to cast aspersions, but I would call this the gall to price match any published price on any item that they carry. They didn't take into effect that Amazon, which is controlled by its users, people don't realize that, but Amazon is absolutely controlled by its user base. Those people learned that does count as publishing, and there were people making quote-unquote fake Amazon ads advertising the PS4 at $89.99, and I saw people listing the Nintendo Wii U at $69.99, or maybe slightly less. I can't remember right off the top of my head. And people were getting the game consoles price matched at Walmart. And immediately, now a lot of this was reported by the folks at Destructoid and the folks at Kotaku, and realistically, those websites are scams in and of themselves, so they really shouldn't be pointing fingers at anybody. But one thing that's really stuck out to me is the people that think, oh, well, this is going to ruin the price matching policy, and they're going to hurt other gamers by doing this. Fuck you, asshole! This is really an instance of the triumph of the American people. Triumph over a hubristic corporation that has the fucking nerve to tell you that they will match any price just based on a piece of paper you drop in front of them. Fuck them and anybody who thinks like them or looks like them. They had this coming for a long fucking time, and I can't believe it took this long for this really to come to light. But people have been ripping off Walmart quite a bit, I've heard, and I'm absolutely fascinated with that because that is the real stroke, the real genius behind the American way of doing things. In that, if you make someone believe something, that must make it true. Kid, you've got to tell me you find this hilarious. You've got to.
I do find it funny. A policy is put in place specifically designed to steal the business of other retailers and
small retailers, mind you.
Small retailers, and they ended up, getting fucked in the ass by it. And I think it's hilarious. And to imply that anybody did anything wrong in this situation, that somebody is somehow at fault because they went to Walmart and used their, their policy. I'm not going to say against them, but advantageously. That's a good way to put it. They went to Walmart.
I want to jump in here. That's a very good way to put it. Advantageously.
They use this policy advantageously, and I think that it's cool. I mean, the money that Walmart lost on this, quote-unquote scam, which I doubt that many people even had the time to really take advantage of, it won't even put a dent in the Walton's nuclear winter bunker fund. It's not a big deal. And I read that they're changing their policies in regards to price matching. I mean, what dipshit Walmart employee, first of all, looked at that and was like, PlayStation 4 for $90? Okay, here you go. I mean, really, why is... why has that person's name not been put out? I mean, that seems like a stupid move. I mean, you'd think that if somebody looks at that, you'd see that that's obviously a mistake. Things like that don't just suddenly drop in price from like $500 to $90. So, I mean, it's really a combination of the quick thinking of those consumers combined with the policy of Walmart combined with the slow wit of the employees that made good on that on those sales. I think all of those things, it was a perfect storm that just led to a handful of people getting PS4s for next to nothing. And at the end of the day, that doesn't really hurt anyone. Walmart's not a person. You can't hurt Walmart's feelings. So they lost a few bucks, big deal. I think those few consumers that drove really fast to fucking, because from what I understand, those that to me, that just seems like someone is just on their computer and then they just like notice like PS4s for $90. I'm like, shit, and they just like grab their coat and their keys and they're just like out the door in class. There's like a cloud of like dust like left behind, like
just the shadow left behind, just pew.
Yeah, and like they're just like flying down the street. It's like a chase out of a Lethal Weapon movie. There's like you're out, like dodging cars and shit. Like it would have to be something like that because it's my understanding that those prices weren't up for very long before someone noticed the mistake and corrected it. So whoever these people were, I mean,
kudos to them. Kudos to those folks.
Big time kudos to them for just their reaction time and just the quickness on them. I mean, that in and of itself is commendable. But yeah, as far as a scam, quote unquote, there's no scam here. It's a mistake on Walmart's part, and it's just a few people taking advantage of the policy while they had it. No scams here.
No, absolutely, and it really, what people don't recognize is this is what I really feel is something that I've been waiting for a long time. Something that I've been looking for some time, because it's finally been shown, the chink in the Walmart armor. This is what you get for hiring people with a fucking 7th grade education and some sort of hubristic return and price matching policy. You got exactly what you fucking deserved. And let's face it, the people that paid $90 for the PlayStation 4 probably still paid above cost for a machine like that. There's no other way of looking at it because, you know, look, everything's made in China. There's no way these fucking things cost $90 to produce. Unless you think am I being out of line on that? Because that doesn't seem like a very high number. I might be wrong. I could be wrong.
Are Sony products made in China?
Yes, absolutely. That's an argument I made here on the 8-Bit podcast a number of times. Is that when someone like Sainted Magnus, you folks remember Sainted Magnus? Sainted Magnus wanted to have an argument with me about the two Japanese consoles versus the American consoles. Like, let's fucking be realistic. They're all Chinese consoles, okay? No matter how much you want to slice and dice and decide whose office buildings are where, they're fucking Chinese consoles. End of discussion. But, you know, it really goes to show that, you know, and Walmart with their exploitative business practices and their slave wages, this has been waiting for a long time to come down the pike. And I really hope that they took a bigger hit than the news is allowing us to know about. Because, you know, we've only heard of a few cases, but who knows? Because, you know, they're good at censoring information, so, you know. But I'm proud of the American ingenuity in ripping off American corporations, because corporations are not your friend. They take your money, your tax dollars, and your natural resources to turn them against you. And I, for one, and this 8-Bit podcast will not stand for that kind of shit. So this is why we sing the praises of people who do things like that, and now their fucking lawyers are going to come after me, but what the fuck, I ain't got no money, so it doesn't really matter. So that's just how things are. But that's just the way I feel about it. Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I mean, I'm a little bummed out because I wish I could have got my Wii U for $60. I'm the sucker that paid the full price for it, but I'm still thrilled about it, so that's all right. You know, nothing wrong with that.
That just shows you need to work on your reaction time. That's what you
need. It does, doesn't it? I was a sucker, and I jumped in on day one, but you know what? I've never regretted jumping in on day one. Never have. Well, maybe once.
Doing an Iron Man.
Maybe one time. Maybe one time. But I'll tell that story another time. So, anyway, but that moves us on to really talking about what is going on in our scene. Because if you've listened to the 8-Bit podcast at all, you've noticed that I've talked about how the retro gaming scene, and there's only a handful of you people that are really in the 8-Bit podcast audience, but for those of you that are retro game fans, I really appreciate all of you for coming out, because the retro game scene has abandoned a lot of you folks. And, you know, there's a lot of people, and right now our scene in terms, and I'm just going to say this right now, our scene is in bad shape right now. Gaming, as well as retro gaming and consumer electronics and all stuff, we're in a bad space right now, and we're leading up to what could be one of the better holidays, you know, for games, or at least for Nintendo, it seems. But speaking of things for Nintendo, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you folks. I'm not the hugest Pokemon fan. I like the Pokemon because they got color. And I like color because I have very shitty eyesight. So when I see bright colors, I'm like, oh, good, I can see this. That's my genuine criticism against, you know, the Xbox and the PlayStation. I can't fucking see anything because everything is brown and gray. But when the Pokemon come out, they've got color, and I appreciate that. And I've noticed that, you know, if you don't know, for those of you 3DS fans, for those of you people with the 3DS, we've recently, or soon we're going to have the re-release of Pokemon Sapphire and Ruby, which have other names. They're like Aqua Sapphire or whatever the fuck their names are. I don't care. They're re-releases, and people seem to pine for re-releases. I'm not a big fan of re-releases, but whatever. If that's what the people want, and if that's what they're going to spend their money on, good. I recommend you rip off Walmart before you spend any money. But if that's not an option because they have changed their return policy, if that's not the case, then, you know, you do what you want. But I've noticed, and I try. This is hard for me, and I'll be perfectly honest. As the anchor of this 8-Bit podcast, it's very hard for me to keep up on the news, especially with the whining sacks of shit that are giving credit as being journalists in this gaming scene of ours on the internet and otherwise and abroad. I always wanted to study abroad, but you know, she seemed rather opposed to the idea. But I've seen the reviews about the Pokemon. And they say that is the Pokemon Sapphire and Ruby, is that too much of a good thing? And that alone drew me in. Not because of what the subject matter could have been, but because where we've come. For those of you that don't know, the 8-Bit podcast has been covering the deterioration of gaming journalism since early 2012, for a long time now, going on 3, possibly 4 years. I can't remember. It seems like 10 goddamn years, so I don't know. But for those of you who've been around since day one, don't forget, we appreciate each and every one of you. But I've read a number of reviews coming from IGN and Polygon and the aforementioned Destructoid and Kotaku, who, you know, really have all the leadership skills that couldn't find our way out of a T-shirt. But a lot of people have sidled up to this distinction, this idea that the new Pokemon games are too much of a good thing. And while I appreciate criticism in as many forms as it shows itself, I've also thought about this, and it gave me a headache, not just because of the alcohol, but just, you know, because of, you know, reading these words on paper. And I thought, what kind of nammy-pammy, panty-waist, first-world fucking problems are these? Games are too good now? What the fuck? We are in an absolute cesspool of games that are released unfinished and just overall bullshit and don't work. And now we've got a game that works too well. What the fuck is wrong with these people? Maybe I could be. You see me, I'm kind of spitting a little bit because I'm a little upset that we cover video games, things that are meant to give fun and make people smile, and it's too much. Kid, you follow this just as much as I do, and well, you're smart in that you are actually putting content on YouTube, as opposed to me. I sit and look at articles and get pissed off and don't want to be on YouTube. But
that's a lie, and you know
it. I'm sure you have a perspective on this whole thing.
I mean, the statement that a game is too good is fucking silly. I mean, what have we really come to? Are we at a point where we're expecting to get shit on and we're appreciating that? It's is sadomasochistic an appropriate term to use in that regard? Is it sadomasochistic or masochistic, where you want punishment?
I imagine that's masochistic.
You know,
Sadomasochistic would be the type of people who like to hurt other people while they're being hurt.
okay,
Whilst they're being hurt.
So masochistic then. Thank you.
Masochistic.
To say that a video game is too good, it seems like the expectations have become so low that when something, you know, decent, which I can't really attest to how good or bad it is. I haven't played it. But just that statement alone, that something is too good and that is somehow a detriment to the game, is to me just a weird thing to say. And it doesn't reflect very well on the current state of gaming, which typically I don't give a shit about. I don't have a great deal of... actually, I don't have any. I don't have a PS4 or an Xbox One. I don't necessarily care to have one anytime soon. I have more than enough to keep myself entertained already. So I don't necessarily follow...
Yeah, if anybody wants to take a look at all the stuff behind you, it seems like you're a pretty busy fella.
I am indeed.
You know, can I cut you off real quick? I want to remind everybody that Kid Shoryuken cut some of the finest game reviews on YouTube. So go check him out. You can find the information down below, down in the information box, and go and check out Kid Shoryuken for some of the finest video game reviews. Now, mind you, they are not your typical gaming reviews filled with the bullshit that you're used to, but cut, dried some of the finest video game reviews that you will find with absolute honesty. And I want you to go check out Kid Shoryuken if you haven't already, because this guy knows what he's talking about, and I hope you do. Anyway, please continue. I'm sorry.
You can see my Vader flex. What was I saying?
You're talking about how great.
But yeah, that. No, but so like I said, I don't necessarily follow modern quote unquote gaming all that much. But that seems to me to be an odd statement to make, to say that, because I had been seeing these memes around. It was like too much water, 78%, you know, something like that, and like that was an argument. You know, I'm assuming that was a gripe against the game. I know typically on gaming websites, when they review a game, they have their positives and negatives, and they have their overall score. And I guess one of those negatives was quote unquote too much water, and so now that's become kind of like a thing to kick around and make fun of. And that in and of itself is really stupid. But yeah, just the statement that a game is too good, therefore that's an argument against it, is it's weird to me, and it's kind of sad that that's the state of gaming today. To say that something good equates bad because we're expecting less is shitty. It's shitty. That's my final word.
It's really a shame that and. That's in an era where because I'm going to be perfectly honest with you folks. It's something that's been rather shocking, and I called this at E3 2014. I said the Wii U is going to be the system to beat. You know, and now we're at a stage where everyone has just kind of accepted the fact that games are crummy, and whenever there's a good game, we should be worried about that. And I don't think it's really, I think, an instance of reading far too much into your subject matter. I really feel that's the way it is, because I don't know. These are supposed to be things that make people smile, and I really think that there's far too much emphasis on the political ramifications of such. I don't know if am I being out of line?
No, not at all.
Okay, well,
I mean,
that's good.
It's true. People hinge too much on opinions about. I mean, they might do it for you and me as well. They might put a lot of stock in what you and I have to say or what our opinions are, and that's a mistake. So if you're a frequenter of these websites, and you put a great deal of stock in these opinions, which you don't even know if they're legitimate opinions.
No, you don't. It almost seems, I've talked about in recent times. I've talked about over the course of, God, as long as the 8-Bit podcast has been going on, and for most of my stint on YouTube, about how politics has come to mirror that of professional wrestling, and because of that, journalistic coverage of said politics have come to mirror that of politics, when it's, you know, it's a matter of, oh, there's Mrs. Yell Chaos giving me some trouble.
What doesn't mirror professional wrestling? In all
Absolutely.
honesty?
What doesn't mirror professional wrestling? And it almost seems like you wonder, it's so much of these quote-unquote journalists, and I really feel like they are doing this just to prove to us that they are a media entity as opposed to telling you the truth. And I'll tell you right now, I have nothing to gain by lying to any of you. Neither of us do. No one on this show who's ever appeared on the HBP podcast has anything to gain by lying to any of you. But it seems like lots of those people have lots to gain by lying to you about one thing or another. So you really wonder, is it a genuine opinion, or is it writing for the sake of writing? Is it, you know, posting content for the sake of your face not disappearing from the zeitgeist of online gaming, the online gaming scene, if you will? You know, kid, do you have any? Am I out of line on that? Because I really feel like that seems like that's what it is. It's more of an effort to keep them in front of your eyes than to really tell you what's up.
Well, that's present everywhere, isn't it? I mean, in any form of media, you know, there are people that will do what they have to do to stay relevant, because I mean that's their bottom line, isn't it? I mean, they're not that's their living, you know. So I mean, I guess on that level, I can't you know, hate someone too much because I understand the need to make money, and you know, if you do something well, even if it's lying, if that's how you make your money. I can kind of understand where they're coming from, but it's people will do what they have to do to stay relevant and continue making money, and it's just up to you, the public, the viewers, the readers, to discern for yourself: is somebody giving you a genuine opinion, or are they just trying to stay relevant and make a little money off you?
Well, and you wonder, and what could come across as just simply, you know, I've got to make the money that I've got to make, really turns into misleading hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of, I'm not going to say millions, but, you know, if not tens of thousands of people, for what? You know, and we could talk about this on and on and on and on and on, because it's really been the crux of this show, and why, you know, it's, of course, coming into the mainstream recently, but it's always been the crux of the Hate Bit podcast to expose this sort of thing. And before we wrap up this topic, I want to tell you folks that we are going to be taking questions not too long after this, so if you've got some questions, I always appreciate the questions coming from you fine folks and what we should talk about here on the program. And also, I want to remind you that whiskey could be your friend. I want you to know that, because sometimes the Hate Bit podcast is painful. Sometimes when I'm telling you guys the truth, it hurts me a little bit. Because you may not know this, but I'm a gamer just like you people. And when this bullshit goes on, it takes away from what's really important, and that's games and entertainment, and I hate to say it, but really distracting people from the bullshit that is their daily lives. You know, it seems to me it's getting people's blood pressure worked up, simply for the sake of posturing. It's posturing for the sake of posturing, and I think that's unhealthy. But that's just what it is. At least that's the way I feel. I could be wrong. But anyway. Now, and I understand. Oh, there's a big fight going on in the chat. I want you to know, I'm not going to stand for that shit. You folks fucking play nice.
Fight.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Are you throwing up a fight? Knock that shit off, man. Come on, I'm trying to be like adult and shit, you know. And what better way to be an adult than, you know, with a beverage in your hand? But you knock that fucking shit off. Don't fight in my show. Come on, let's be intelligent. Let's have a genuine conversation here. All right?
Okay.
But anyway, let me see. I'm gonna take some questions pretty soon. As soon as I see some fucking questions, because right now there's a whole bunch of fucking you know, fuck you, and I don't think I care for that. I would really hope that you guys would grow up and stop that. I've never had to do this. I've never had to say fucking knock that shit off right now. You know, but,
I think it's pretty funny.
Yeah, but while we're waiting on,
I mean, because I can see this person in here And
No, don't give him too much attention. Don't give him too much attention. While the folks are formulating their questions.
It's funny. Okay.
Yeah, well, while the folks are formulating their questions, I want to talk about why is everyone ganging up on Bill Cosby? Do you know anything about this? Because, I mean, people talk about Bill Cosby did this and Bill Cosby did that back in the 1970s. Like, from my now, mind you, I was born in 1983. So from my best research, everybody was fucking everybody in the 70s. So I don't really see why everyone's mad at Bill Cosby. It's like, Bill Cosby grabbed my ass. Yeah, he probably grabbed lots of asses. I mean, just don't tell his wife Camille. Because, then she'll get upset. And what's funny is now I read this morning, I got up this morning, and something I do every morning, I check and see what the Hater Nation's up to, and then after that I read the news, which is a really dumb thing, and I really got to knock that shit off. But I read the news, and there's been, now kid, we were talking about this shortly before the program.
Yeah.
There's another accuser, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Another person has, I guess, come forward and made some allegations against Mr. Cosby, and I guess the main thing I've learned from all this is that sexual assault is never funny unless it was Bill Cosby. Then it's pretty funny because I imagine him with like that one of those sweaters on, and talking about like pudding pops and shit.
You see,
you see, you're either gonna give it willingly, or I'm gonna have to take the pussy. Mwah.
Hey, I meant to tell you that if you can't get the pussy, you have to take the pussy.
Yeah, the Jello pudding.
And that's something that I found interesting. There's lots of accusers, and this reminds me very much. For those of you that lived through the 1990s, you have my sympathy. But beyond that, for those of you people that had to live through the 1990s, this reminds me a lot of both the accusations of Bill Clinton as well as the accusations of Vince McMahon. For those of you that are not old enough to remember that, because that happened when I was a little boy. But, now having the power of Internet archives, I've been able to read through this. And, I hate to play the devil's advocate, but let's face it, it's what I'm good at. And I have to say this with utmost certainty. I wonder, and then, you get that voice in your brain, and I say, what do you have? Any evidence? Is there, do you have, some photographs on Kodak film? Or possibly wrappers for the Jello pudding pop? It seems like these women are just, well, Bill Cosby did this to me. It's like, yeah, he was a young comedian in the 70s on cocaine. I'm sure it happened to lots of people. Fucking ask anybody who was in the same room with George Carlin around the same period. I'm sure it happened. Why it's coming out 40 fucking years later, I have no idea. Oh, I was afraid. Well, you're not afraid now, and we live in an era where everybody can get into your fucking business just by looking at your Facebook page. Why is it any different now than it was back then? Kid, do you have any observations?
My observations I don't have any observations. I just have imaginations on this thing, and they all make me laugh because I think about them like trying to, like a psychologist, like speaking to like this victim. I mean, not so funny. But when I think about what she might say when she's recounting the events of being assaulted by Bill Cosby, and I just says, I built up this mental barrier, and it's so hard. It's like I'm trying to see it, but all I can see is his sweater, and he violated me with a Jello pudding pop. It's too high, I can't relive it, and that makes me laugh. I think that's fun. Is that bad? Am I bad for thinking that's funny?
No, because I personally feel that anytime you laugh, it's a good thing, even if it's at someone else's expense. You wouldn't believe the jokes I make. See, Hater Nation, you wouldn't believe the jokes I make at Razorfist's expense, right before we go on the program. So, no, I don't find anything wrong with that. I find that you are a person with a funny bone that needs to be tickled, and that's perfectly healthy. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
It's akin to being assaulted by a clown, but he's like in character. That's what I think.
Like clowns, don't you think we're fucking funny?
Yeah, well, Cosby is one of those people where it's impossible to separate like him from his character. You're not really sure that there's even really a separation there.
Oh, between Bill Cosby and Cliff Huxtable?
Yeah, because it seems like he's always on. you know. And it's hard. Look, I hate to do this right in the middle of a thing, but this is in my bladder right now, and I entertain the people.
Well, while Kid Shoryuken's gone and he showed everybody his ass, I guess it's my job to entertain each and every one of you. So I want to go to a couple of questions here, but no one's leaving any no one's leaving any comments. So I don't really know what to say to you, fine folks. I know that Robert White, who's been the voice of reason in the comments section over the last 45 minutes, close to an hour. Has brought up that it seems to be a lot of people crying, just trying to make a quick buck. And it seems very similar to what happened to Michael Jackson not too long ago. So it's a real shame. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure that being famous has its pitfalls, and this is one of them. But, what are you going to do? This is just the way that people feel about things. And it's, we just... we live in an era where it just seems like, if you cry, you will be saced, you will be paid to shut up, and that's a real shame. But anyway, I want to move on to some other questions, and a big question that seems really, really important comes from Majesty ZX, who's always on the program, always got. Thank you, Majesty, I appreciate that. And he asked us, what holiday titles are you most excited for? And they really haven't changed since the last time we talked about this on Pissing in the live stream. Myself and Mr. Bundy, we discussed that we can't wait for Captain Toad Treasure Tracker on the Wii U. And I hate to harp on the fact that the Wii U might be the place to be for the holiday, because they're the only one that's really turning out any games. I know that the fine folks at Microsoft are handing out free games on their Xbox One. Did you hear about that, kid?
I heard about that. Something to do about free copies of what's that one where it's like Jet Grind Radio with guns?
The one that took forever to come out and Sunset Overdrive.
Sunset Overdrive. I heard about it. Free copies of Sunset Overdrive. Has it really come to that? You're just giving the games away now?
Is that, yeah, they really are like, yeah, you know what, I tell you what, we're selling so many of them, we're just giving the games away. Folks, I don't want, I'm going to be perfectly honest, I don't want to badmouth the Xbox One. I really don't. I want, and I've said this before, I want the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One and the Wii U and PC to be absolutely flooded with games this holiday. And that doesn't seem to be the case. That's a real shame. We are coming to really the best-selling period for video games, at least as long as I've been alive. The holiday period, late November through through Christmas in this country, and I know Christmas is a pretty big deal in Japan, but I want this to be huge, and there's really nothing to talk about. And now they're giving away games, and I don't want this thing to crash and burn. But I really feel that, and now we're talking about the shame of the upcoming, the generation and so forth, and we were supposed to be talking about things we're happy about, the holiday titles, but the one that really sticks out to me, oh, by the way, I cannot believe I forgot this for you fine folks. Happy Smash Day to each and every one of you. I'm sure a whole bunch of people went out and got Smash Brothers on their Wii U, and for those of you who don't like the Wii U's, for those of you who don't like Smash Brothers, shut the fuck up, we're not talking to you. But for those of you that went out and got Smash Brothers and are smashing as we speak, a lot of you people are probably listening to the podcast as you're smashing. I appreciate that, and I hope that you're having a great time with it. What are you laughing about over there, kid?
Smashing. It's another word for sex. And it's funny that you say people are smashing as they listen to this. It's funny to me.
Well, I figured that's appropriate, smashing and so forth. But yeah, so happy Smash Day to everybody because, came out this morning. In fact, my Wii U was beckoning me to fucking buy this thing. And I said no, because I'm not a big fan of digital distribution. I'll get it physically when I get it, because I want to get it, and I want to talk about Smash Brothers for a second, because I've never been the biggest Smash Brothers fan. But now that I'm living in San Diego, California, I'm closer to my in-laws, and my brother-in-law is just absolutely all about Smash Brothers, and he has been busting my chops. He won't buy a fucking Wii U for himself, but he has been busting my chops to buy a Wii U so we can play Smash Brothers 4. And so he can't seem to wait, but I'm going to wait to get that big collector's box, which is the big box with the game and the GameCube. You know what I'm talking about, the multi-tap for the GameCube and legitimate GameCube, and or the GameCube controller, the special edition GameCube controller.
Yes,
and I'm one of those people. I'm going to tell you be perfectly honest with you. I'm not one of those people that feel that the GameCube controller is the greatest controller in the history of video game controllers. It isn't, at least in my view. But it's so goddamn collectible, and that's a major pitfall for me. If something's collectible, I cannot leave it behind. And for those of you folks that are watching Kid Shoryuken right now, you see all that shit behind him? Apparently, he has the exact same problem. Just look at all that stuff behind you. There must be hundreds of games behind you. Are you excited for Smash Brothers at all, kid?
I am and not. I'll play it as soon as I have the opportunity, but I still play Smash Brothers Melee, to be honest. And I mean the original Smash Brothers even. So I would very much like to play the newest one, just because I would very much like to play as Mega Man. It's like my favorite gaming character ever.
Really, Mega Man? Is that what you're so excited for?
Yes, of course. Why? Who wouldn't be excited for?
No, I'm excited he's there. I just, I don't really want to play as Mega Man.
Mega Man fans have been so starved for content from that series for so long. Just the fact that he's included in Smash Brothers that's phenomenal, fucking great. So sure, I'd love to play it. Am I going to run out and buy it? No, because I don't own a 3DS or a Wii U or any such things. But given the opportunity, yes, I'll definitely play it. It looks like a lot of fun. Smash Brothers games are always fun. It's simple, and it's pleasing to see all these iconic Nintendo characters. And now, I mean, branching off beyond that, you got Pac-Man and Mega Man. Getting into all these other.
Yeah. Finally, Pac-Man has a reason to exist.
Yeah.
Because they've shoehorned Pac-Man into so many games that I really don't think it matters anymore. It's just like, what is this guy notorious for? Eating things. He's almost a complete pizza, and he eats things. That is the whole crux of that which is Pac-Man, and I don't understand why they're the people that want to keep perpetuating Pac-Man. It's like, Pac-Man got us to where we are. It's kind of like trying to elevate the mortar in between the bricks. Like, I appreciate what Pac-Man did, but you got two Pac-Man games, Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man. Everything else has been an attempt on shoving Pac-Man into somebody else's format. And I don't want to badmouth Pac-Man because I like Pac-Man. I've got, for those of you who don't know, there's a Pac-Man, original Pac-Man glass over there on my shelf. So I'm not opposed to Pac-Man, but
Die-hard fan.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a lie. That's a lie, and you. But that is what that is. So, but I hope it's good, and I hope the people enjoy your Smash Brothers experience. And frankly, I'll tell you this, because a lot of people have asked me, my feelings about it, and I'll tell you absolutely honestly, I'm sick and fucking tired of Smash Brothers, because of social media, I've heard about Smash Brothers every freaking day of my life, and now I'm glad the game is out, because now they'll stop talking about it and it'll get onto Evo, and then they'll do that and they'll do their thing. And I'm happy for those people. I really am.
I have loved those commercials.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, the commercials are halfway decent. They're actually doing something.
I like those a lot. The little kid on the bus, and he's talking to that man, this giant man. He's like, "You're in my seat." And then they fight it out and smash.
I want to bring up something real quick. This is an interesting. Displacer83, who shows up to all the 8-Bit podcasts. There's some diehard people in this comment section, and I really appreciate that. But Splicer says he went into Best Buy to get Smash, and he saw a few people with bags full of Amiibos, and that's surprising to me, because I wondered, could Amiibo? I want to talk about Amiibo for a second. Could Amiibo really stand up to the Skylanders and to the Disney Infinity? Now, granted, they do more than the Skylanders and the Disney Infinity, but do those brands really stand up, and can they do what Skylanders and Disney Infinity has done? And apparently, according to what I've heard from a few other sources, that it is doing quite well, and I find that very interesting.
The fuck is an amiibo?
Are you ribbing, or are you telling me the truth?
I'm being totally honest right now.
You know
I've heard
what I mean? The little Nintendo model chips that, with the NFC cap. Why am I explaining this to you? You don't care. You've got more games than you know what to do with. You won't be able to buy a new console for at least another 6 or 7 years because you've got at least.
I don't know what the fucking amiibo is. I hear the term being thrown around a lot. I don't know. I honestly don't know what the fuck that is.
Well, the amiibos are, in fact...
never mind. I don't give a fuck. Who cares?
Well, it's okay, because after the show, you can look at the comments. There's a whole bunch of people that will explain to you what the amiibos are, because they're fine people, and they're well-informed. And I want to say this real quick, because, we're getting towards the end of the hour. And I really thank everybody for those of you that were drinking along with us, I really appreciate that. Thank you for joining in on the Cocktail Hour here on the Hate Bit Podcast channel. But for those of you, you are some really well-informed people. I'm not going to name names because I don't want anyone to feel left out, but there's some well-informed people in the Hate Bit Podcast audience, and good on each and every one of you. So, kid, I expect you to do your fucking research and talk to these people, and they'll tell you what you need to know for the upcoming holiday season.
Will do.
And someone said that the Villager and the Wii Fit Trainer were sold out. I've got this theory that people do Wii Fit just to look at the Wii Fit Trainer's ass. I have a feeling. I don't know why, but I just have that feeling, and I could be totally out in left field, but, you never know.
And you don't begrudge them that.
No, I don't begrudge them at all. It's, it's similar to, because before we came on the air, Kid Shoryuken was telling me about some people that sent him a picture of Chun-Li with a fully erect, uncircumcised penis.
And
sends you a picture pulling the foreskin apart, and as I think pulling the foreskin apart. So
I like it. It's somebody with very specific tastes.
Not to mention very detailed graphical capability.
Yeah, quite the artist he was. Very, very a lot of detail on that foreskin being, just quite the artist he was. Excuse me.
And Dylan8837 asks if it's 151 proof or 190 proof. 190 proof would be like grain alcohol, but the stuff I'm dealing with is 100 proof whiskey, so that's why there's a bit of a slurring of the words. But
goes down smooth.
What are you gonna do? But anyway, I want to tell everybody that we're towards the end of the program and the end of the cocktail hour. I thank each and every one of you for stopping by. We hope that you had a good time, and hopefully we talked about things you want to talk about. And if there's something that we didn't talk about, I want to encourage each and every one of you to join the Hate Bit Podcast Network of Hate on the Facebook. If you're not on the Facebook, that's fine. I understand. It fucking sucks. But if you go through the bullshit of dealing with your friends on the Facebook, I want you to join the Hate Bit Podcast Network of Hate. It's really easy to find. Go and check it out. There's a bunch of guys who do a lot to really make sure that is a great Facebook group with lots to talk about and lots to discuss. So jump on that whenever you get a chance. I want to tell you that you guys have been great. Joining me has been the mighty Kid Shoryuken. Kid, say goodbye to everybody.
Everybody, thank you so very much for watching and listening to our anarchic, insane ramblings. And, I do hope to see you again next time. Thank you.
And I hope to see each and every one of you next time, reminding you that I am the mighty Yell Chaos. This has been the Hate Bit Podcast Cocktail Hour, and I'm glad we were able to have this talk with you. Also want to remind you that we'll see each and every one of you on Hate Bit Podcast Pissing in the live stream later this month. Don't worry about it. We're going to have one. For those of you that worried, there's one coming. So you guys have been great, and we have been the Kid in Chaos. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.